Alright, beautiful people, so in today's video I'm going to show you exactly how to create a high converting landing page that converts at 70% or more, and we're going to be going through exact steps how to create a landing page copy, what you need to do to research your audience, your competitors, where to find that information, and we're going to also be going through like over 15 tips to make sure your landing page converts at a very, very, very high rate, and it brings you quality subscribers that click on your ads, buy your product, or whatever that is you're doing with your newsletter. So without further ado, let's dive right in, and let me just share my screen over here. So essentially, the first part of this is understanding your audience, understanding who are you talking to, what their needs are, what their wants are, what their problems are, what their age is, gender, all of the small nuances, how they communicate, what kind of language they understand, what words resonate with them, what visual style of the landing page resonates with them. And all of these things, knowing all of these things will help you to create a landing page that will make them subscribe, or will compel them subscribe, or will leave them no other option but to subscribe. So let's get started with this. Like, there are a few things you need to know about your audience. The first one is, well, all of these things are I just kind of mentioned, but repetition I think is very, very important here. And so you need to know how they identify themselves. So other developers, other marketers, business people, agency owners, AI enthusiasts, just people that want news, people that want to invest in stocks, whatever that is your newsletter is about. You want to understand first how you monetize your newsletter, who's going to be bringing you the most value, who's going to be the most valuable subscriber. And typically, it's not going to be, you're going to have some sort of distribution where most of your subscribers are going to be less valuable than like 5%. You're only going to have, I guess it really depends on your monetization, but you want to find out where you get your ideal subscribers, but you also include some of the middle distribution type of subscriber that you can get a lot of from the ads. But you have to just understand how it works, right? So if you're running ads and if you're going after a very specific audience, like it might be very tricky to make the monetization work. So you have to kind of have that balance, if it makes sense what I'm talking about. But it's very kind of multifaceted cake, I'd say. So you gotta, I guess, just test here. And there's no like one size, a cookie cutter approach here. So that's, you gotta know who you're talking about, or who you're talking to, and so that you can say it in your ad, on your landing page, so that when they land on that landing page, it will resonate with them. Because the first question they will ask when they land on the landing page is this for me? Is this for somebody else? Does this fit me? Do I fit this? So that's important. You're not always want to identify themselves. You not always want to mention that identity in the copy. But in some cases, it could make sense. So for example, if you only want developers in your newsletter, you only want them because nobody else will benefit from the newsletter. And if they want benefit, they won't stay subscribed, they won't be monetized. So it's going to be very useless if they actually subscribe for you and for them. So you want to mention that on a landing page. And if you only want, VCs, mention that on your landing page. So, and you can do it in a few ways. You can say, essentially, like, for developers, for venture capitalists, or you can say, join X number of subscribers, X number of developers from these companies or something like that. So that's important. That's essential, I think, in a lot of cases. Sometimes it's not essential because when you just say desired outcome, it will kind of identify, it will already include everybody who are you talking about or who are you talking to. So, but obviously, when you put that identity thing on your landing page, that will resonate with people more, and they will be more likely to subscribe. So that's one piece. Then there is desired outcome, and also you don't want to be like too inclusive in a lot of cases. So you don't want to like say, I don't know, only like there's some cases where you want to make sure you're more inclusive because then you can get more people that are also relevant to you. So when it comes to developers, you don't want to say only like, I don't know, API developers when your newsletter is like can encapsulate or can include more people, more developers, not just API developers. So then very important part is desired outcome. What is the outcome they think they would get from that newsletter, from your newsletter? What's the outcome they need, they think they know they need? And it also depends on the funnel, I guess. If you're like, where are they coming from, right? What that place says. So just before going into this, sometimes like you don't, I mean, in a lot of cases you want to mention this, but there might be some other cases where it will be very dependent on what you, like your headline, your text that you put on your landing page. It will be very dependent on what you put on, before the landing, before the, before they even land on that landing page. So sometimes it might not be the outcome. It might be, okay, here's like this lead magnet, and then like, I'll give you this, this, and this, and then okay, I clicked on the ad that says lead magnet, I'll get this, and that's kind of, I think, where it could be sometimes damaging to just like lead totally with the end outcome. So, but you can always A/B test this, right? But desired outcome in most cases is extremely important to have on your landing page. And then also you gotta understand what they're, so these actually, just these things, you gotta kind of like understand your audiences and put them into buckets. And then ideally you'd create different landing pages and different ads, and maybe you create one landing page that kind of can include all of these people, right? So let's say, so you got to understand their desired outcome, what they want to know, what they want to get out of joining your newsletter. And I'm repeating myself a lot. I know that because I think like all of these things are worth being repetitive of, because repetition is persuasive and you just kind of learn it better. So the other thing is these outcomes, all the outcomes lead to other outcomes, right? The physics law, there is every action produces a reaction, not necessarily equal, opposite. But let's say, you learn how to become like a 10x developer, you have all of these other outcomes. And there's a lot of like subconscious outcomes. So like you'd be better, you'd have sense of security, you'd be able to provide for your family, you'd be able to have higher status, for example, right? So all of these things you gotta understand about your audience, and then you can kind of put in your ad copy, or not ad copy obviously, but also your landing page copy. Actually, before we dive to the next step, I think a very important thing is to mention that so add test copy in your ads. So test best add copy from your ads as your landing page copy. So I think this is gonna be a cool pro tip here. Cool. So these are very, very important things. Desired outcome, a bunch of other subconscious outcomes that they might not realize, might not think of, but they subconsciously know that getting that outcome will protect them, will save them, will get them to like survive, right? Reproduce, whatever that is. So and then what are the pains to achieve that outcome? So in the case of developers, it could be, like, I don't know, watching YouTube videos, or I'm just like, it's actually kind of boring a lot of times. Like reading developer books can be super boring. So maybe like you can kind of add it to your landing page. It's like, okay, learn how to become a 10x developer in a fun way, or like while building projects you actually enjoy, something like that. It's just kind of like an example out of the blue, and you want to understand their age and their gender. So age is gender is very important because there are specific words and also language, the way you would communicate to different genders. So, for example, typically, like younger women, I guess women in general, they don't use, they're not too, like, they're more experiential. They like adjectives, I'd say, and like they don't like some things described as they actually are. And it also depends on their occupation and all these things, but that's just kind of like a generalization, which is, we find it to be true in marketing. And then their age, right? So same thing. So like if you're older, you have less energy, you have less, you have like different life priorities, and your outcomes would be very different as well. And also like how much, I guess, like energy you have, right? So, but most of a lot of older people, they're capable of reading. So that's a good. You don't have to like be super visual when it comes to having a newsletter for older people. So now, yeah, like most of the newsletter readers are mostly information driven people who love learning. So that's something that's probably going to be ubiquitous for other newsletters, except it's like a image newsletter or something. But the first part is to really, really understand your audience, know all these things about them, and so you want to. That will help you with ads. It will help you with content. That will help you with obviously the landing page. And so knowing all of these, or knowing all the things we need to know, the question becomes, where do we find that information? So often we would know that information intuitively or from experience. We start a newsletter hopefully knowing who our ideal audience is. But there's few things you can do to research that. So next thing is, how do we get information? So we get that information we can get that information by doing some research. And so we already kind of discovered that we can take our best copy best ad copy or from your ads and make it your landing page copy, and that will likely increase your conversion rate. So there's a few other things. So it's great, we can do that. Existing content or existing data research, existing data. So that those are the things as like your newsletter headlines, your newsletter poll, like surveys, right? Survey results or polls, or your organic content. So by analyzing all of these data points, you'll be able to know what's important to your audience. And you can kind of get some ad ideas from that. And also landing page ideas, right? And then there is competitor research, right? You can kind of look at your competitor ad libraries, check their ads, and also their landing pages. And that'll help you to see the patterns. Now you can also go on Twitter, you can also go on TikTok. Those are great great organic platforms. Also Instagram, I'd say Instagram too. If your audience is most likely going to be in those platforms, which there's high chance everybody going to be on Instagram. And a lot of newsletter readers will be on Twitter. I think a lot. Because it's primarily been a text platform. So these platforms are going to be very easy for you to do research when it comes to ads, landing pages, just really understanding your audience. And in this case, your competitors' content. So, and it doesn't have to be newsletters. It can be anything that is relevant to them, anything that is related to your audience and the outcome you're helping them achieve. So let's say we're talking about developers. It doesn't have to be like a developer newsletter that you'd be researching. It can be like a developer school, a developer course. So just all these things will help you understand what's working for your audience when it comes to marketing to them. Because marketing is really understanding your audience better than they understand themselves. Because if you can articulate their problem better than they can, there's no way they're just gonna be ignoring you. So that's, we want to know these data points. This is how you can get these data points. Very important, I think, the headlines or like a subject lines are going to be very important for this research if you have any data. Now, market research is basically just a research of understanding your audience. So you can go on YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, Twitter, Quora, Discord, Facebook groups, niche forums, and etc. Right? There's plenty of resources, plenty of information online of people liking content that are in your audience, and so you should take advantage of that. Now you can also talk to people live, right? Like interview your subscribers, maybe interview some other people, that'd be ideal, but it's like way less scalable. So these are the places you can get the data from, and you'll be able to kind of identify your ideal audience, or at least have these things listed. Because you might intuitively know who they are, but having them actually on paper or in a spreadsheet will help your team to know who you're talking to. So that's part 2, right? I think part 2. Now, what is part 3? Oh, Actually, no, it's part 1.2. Now, part 2 is the part of where we would write the newsletter copy, newsletter landing page copy. So based on this, all these data points we've gathered, your landing page should answer these critical questions immediately, right? Immediately when they land on the landing page. So they land on a landing page, they have to understand, who is this for? Is this for me? Is this for somebody else? Should I pay attention? Why should I pay attention? And then what's the ultimate outcome of me subscribing to the newsletter? What am I getting out of this newsletter? Why do I subscribe? So what's in it? What's in it for me? And I think there's also one more. So one more is, what makes it different and special from other newsletters. So this is like a good one to have. It doesn't have to be there necessarily. If you can answer it, it's okay. If your content can answer it, that's better. I mean, that's better, but that's also good. That's really good, actually. So because like, you don't have to have an extremely good landing page. Actually, you don't have to. It could be extremely good ads or have ads. The function of ads and the landing page is just to get the right people in. Then your newsletter takes over, and that has to be actually the main. That has to, because all the money when it comes to newsletter are in the future. So you want to have the content that delivers, and the only function of function of landing page and ads is just to get right people in. I know I'm repeating myself multiple times, but I think these things are worth repeating. So who is this for? Is this for me? What am I getting out of this? Why you're different? What makes your newsletter different? Or what makes this outcome vehicle different? So newsletter is essentially a vehicle of delivering an outcome. It's just a tool, really. Well, yeah, depends how you call it. There's probably a lot of ways you can call it. Platform, channel. But in this case, when it comes to your audience, they want something, and this newsletter is utility, or so utility to solve their problem. And sometimes, so cool. So how easy is to achieve the promised outcome? So that's the question I would think of, because if you get, they kind of have to understand. Well, okay, there you go. So how easy is to achieve the promised outcome, and how the newsletter will help them achieve the outcome. So a lot of these things, these are very applicable to business oriented newsletters, or newsletters that are I don't know, in finance, because then you just have to you kind of write it in ad copy. Okay, here's what you're gonna get, here's how, and you can answer this question: what makes you different? Or is it worth subscribing? You can answer it by just putting the social proof, okay, a million other agency owners are also subscribed, and they scale their agencies to 9 figures by reading this newsletter or while reading this newsletter. But these are all kind of nice to have. You don't want to bloat your copy necessarily with you don't want to bloat your landing page with a lot of explanation, reasoning, ad copy, because you just want to get them in. So maybe these are the things you want to leave on the second page. But I think some of these things are very important to get answered in a lot of cases. But a lot of times they're kind of answered subconsciously by having some other relevance like social proof, um, and you know, just kind of like how this newsletter will help them achieve the outcome. A lot of times, okay, if it's like every day I'll give you like or like every week I'll give you a stock tip or like a well-researched stock idea or something like that. Then I'm like, okay, I understand how it's gonna. I understand what the outcome is gonna be, and I understand how it's gonna get me there, and how easy it's gonna be, because it's gonna be like all research, all for me, and everything. So a lot of things that can be deciphered very easily without necessarily specifically stating how it's gonna be done, and how easy it is and stuff like that. So that's part two, and we can get to some examples later on. But I think, yeah, there's some very cool things are gonna be in this video. So stay tuned until the end. But the next part is the checklist. So newsletter high conversion rate checklist. I misspelled checklist. Great. Checklist. So landing page needs to be very easy to read. There's to be no distractions. You have to keep your landing page copy as short as possible, ideally a size of one screen on mobile. So what I mean by this, you shouldn't really have like 10 different pages when it comes to landing page for newsletter. You only want to have one field, one button, one good headline, maybe sub headline, and maybe there's like, that's it pretty much. Maybe some copyright copy, like, you know, so they don't steal your copy at the bottom of the newsletter, or like links to terms and policies and all these things, the compliance things, right? But you shouldn't have like 10 different pages, maybe 2 pages, but I would just keep to one, or A/B test this. Then text size, especially when your audience is over whatever 50, 40, keep your text size over 16 pixels on the mobile. Most of the people will be reading your newsletter on mobile anyways, or subscribing to. So your landing page copy needs to be readable. Limit paragraphs to 2 sentences or 4 text strokes. I think just 4 text strokes. I think 2 sentences is good. So you wouldn't want to have like, also, yeah, limit your bullet points if you have. Limit your bullet points to 4 or 5, maybe 4 or 5. And the reason why, if you have, let's say you have these bullet points, right? And then if I bloat them, if I add like, this is, when you're looking at this is like, it's a lot of text, and their brains will just not want to read this. Most of people's brains is just like too painful. This is way less painful, and if you have just 4, it's way even easier, right? If you have a lot of text crammed together, like this, it's going to be very hard to read. But if you just have this text spread around like this into chapters, it's very like much easier to read. There's space for brain. It's very easy to like at least keep track of the things it read or it consumed. So those are the small, tiny things that a lot of people don't pay attention to. A lot of marketers don't pay attention to. But when you pay attention to, you're going to have an edge, and you're going to be able to dominate everybody. And when you're going to be able to dominate everybody, you're going to have, a successful business. Obviously, assuming you do all the other things right. So let's keep with this checklist. Not overwhelming visually. Like, the reason why I use Google Docs actually is because it's very nice, very clean, and it's not overwhelming. A lot of people use like slides and all those things. And like, if you look at their landing page, it's like, how can you consume any information there? So keep the color amount or number to 3 or 4. Make it not overwhelming visually. Don't have a lot of, just like make your landing page white, or maybe like, I don't know, gray or something. Avoid any secondary call to actions or links that could distract people from the primary goal. So don't have any links from your landing page. Just one button, one field. That's it. Now make sure you have a clearly visible call to action. Call to action button is in a distinct color. The copy needs to be crystal clear, obviously. Has to be very easy to understand. Get straight to what's in it for them. Avoid jargon, or I mean, sometimes you want to include this, right? When it's like very niche. Social proof and trust elements. Ladies and gentlemen, this is kind of a no-brainer in a lot of cases. When it comes to newsletter, you don't have to have them. It's helpful to have them. I think a lot of times when you have things like logos of things they would know of, like trust elements, like let's say newsletter read by Google developers, OpenAI, whatever, something like that, that's gonna increase your trust. Testimonials, number of subscribers. I think number of subscribers is useful. Testimonials, I think in this day and age, a lot of people just kind of don't pay. Well, if they're from people they know or they can look up, that's good. But like, you got to be mindful of just not making your landing page too lengthy. And yeah, it's like sometimes testimonials can actually hurt you. There have been a few tests we've seen that was the case. So just kind of be mindful of testimonials. Make sure they're somebody they can identify with. They see themselves in reading these testimonials. And if it's a free newsletter, you might not even want to have those testimonials on the first landing page. If you have a paid newsletter, you can have them on your paid landing page, and you can have all the things there that will help them make a decision. But if it's a free newsletter, like, you don't want to have too much stuff there. So now if you have a long landing page, like you just, I want to have landing page long. Okay, I mean, you can try it, but make sure you have a call to action button after every screen size on mobile. So I'm scrolling on mobile, and after each scroll, ideally you have a call to action button, so that way they don't have to like to scroll to the above the fold hero section to subscribe. Now, let me know if you have any questions so far, or maybe I missed anything, God forbid, here. But I think these are very good. We use these SOPs internally, and these things are kind of just a no-brainer, right? But common sense is not always common, so it's good to, that's why I'm recording this video, and it's always worth repeating the good things. So part 4 of this video going to be very important. It's going to be pro tips from professionals, professional tips. So if you want to be a professional, if you want to increase your newsletter subscriber conversion rate or newsletter conversion rate, listen up. It's going to be paramount. So tip number 1, check your competitor landing page for inspiration. Be very important, be very careful here that you don't copy big competitors necessarily, because they might have a very different business model. They might be able to afford paying much higher for a subscriber, and they might have a totally different problems. And so the problems you won't be able to pay for to solve them, and they can. but still check them. It's gonna be important for you. Now install heat maps like Clarity from Microsoft and check them at least monthly. So Clarity, Microsoft, I'm gonna have like 50 accounts there because we use them for our clients. And then A/B test your landing pages. Like this is literally a sin. It's a sin. It's illegal by law to not test your landing pages by marketing law. I mean, like if you're not doing this, like you should be in marketing jail. Like this is just, yeah, extremely important to do this. Yeah, and we can cover it in one of the next videos. There was a recent video actually where we covered how we reduced our cost per subscriber by half. So we had like $60 60 cents per subscriber, and we got it to 30 just by A/B testing landing pages. More primarily just by doing that. Primarily, there were a few other things we did. So watch that video. Now, extremely important tip. Like if you're not doing this, this is the second sin, is to not have your landing pages aligned with your ads. Your landing page needs to be aligned with your ads, or with the, if you're doing whatever else, if you're doing organic content, it needs to be aligned with that organic content. So if you have a bunch of different ads, you want to have a bunch of different ad concepts, different audience types, different outcomes that your newsletter can achieve for different audience types. You want to have a landing page specifically for those audience types. And whenever you write a piece of content, whenever you write an ad, you want to send people to the newsletter landing page that is very relevant to that piece of content, that ad, where they came from. So, and the most important tip of this video is to actually subscribe to this channel, because if you do, you'll get better, you'll get smarter, you'll get ahead. And if you don't, you'll stagnate. You won't get high conversion rate for your newsletter, and other newsletters will outcompete you, and it's gonna be bad. You're gonna be sad. So that's it for this video. Let me switch to this full camera here. If you enjoyed this video, please, or feel free to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for the next videos. Let me know in the comments what you want me to cover in the next videos. I have some ideas. I have some people already telling me what they want me to cover, but your comment will be answered and will be valued and will be attended to, I guess. So we do Facebook ads for newsletters. If you want us to grow your newsletter with Facebook ads, you can find that link in the description and book a call, or just email us, and we can go from there. And thanks for watching the video, and you'll see you in the next one. Adios.